Hi, my name is Erica, and my history as a dancer comes straight out of the roots of American dance pioneers, especially the female American dance pioneers. My dance journey began with the Martha Graham technique, and I also learned quite a bit of Limon, who had a female artistic director of his company, which is very unusual, and he really honored Doris Humphrey as his mentor throughout his entire career. And I've always been in awe of the work that Isadora Duncan and Loie Fuller did at the turn of the 20th century and just before in innovating dance away from corsets, away from point shoes, away from ballet, and into a new form of expression that was liberating for female bodies, liberating for female minds, and a metaphor for bursting forth into a beautiful future. It was a time where dance was really helping drive the ideals of what it meant to be human. So this piece that I am working on for Delve is very in line with that. I happened to reconnect with poet Andrea Musher about a year ago, and she and I had met when I was little, 5 years old. She knew my mother. They were both parts of a feminist movement in Madison in the 1970s. And Andrea had done this piece, if it weren't for her stays, a piece of choral poetry with dancers that knew my mother back in 1990. So this piece is a recreation, a very different recreation of that piece that was performed in 1990. It uses the idea of a corset as a metaphor for the often paradoxical struggles of particularly female bodies, but bodies in general. Because of the themes in Isadora Duncan and Loie Fuller's movement, this idea of uncorseted, very free movement, this Art Nouveau, rippling, lots of flowing fabric, it felt really appropriate both in subject matter and in the visual effect to have lots of fabric on stage, to have corsets, to have aerial silks, to have this idea of flight and freedom as a contrast to the restriction of corseting and tying and being bound. This Delve structure is challenging in that I'm working with dancers that have very different skill sets from me. Dancers that their beautiful expertise is something that I've never worked with before. And my journey of finding a way to bring that to light and to really let them shine as individuals and then as a group is a big challenge. And especially with 10 dancers, that's a lot to do in a fairly short process, especially when I'm not familiar with them. But it's very important to the piece to have all of these individual perspectives, to have different representation of bodies on stage, have a variety of bodies. It does nurture my professional growth to be working with folks outside of my network or outside of my training. The challenges that I'm facing are feeding my ability to speak to new things, to try new skill sets, to communicate more effectively, to communicate differently, and to put together a really collaborative, interdisciplinary work for the first time in, over a decade. This is the first time in over a decade that I've put together something that utilizes the creation of the entire sound score and the subject matter and the dance and the costumes all in the same time frame. I don't think I've done something like this since my master's thesis, and even then I was very familiar with the dancers in my piece. I'd like to say that this piece is just the tip of the iceberg. We are trying to use some of these ideas and metaphors as a starting point for us all to examine what is holding us back in society, what's holding us back from being the best version of ourselves, what's holding us up, and what kind of supports and constraints are working to help us, and how can we navigate those differences between things that are useful tools that are constraining versus tools that are put upon us, constraints that are put upon us as a society, as individuals, that are preventing us from doing better, from doing more. So I hope that it's enlightening, maybe inspiring, moving in some way for you as an audience to get a different perspective on some of these things that are challenging for us as humans. Thank you. I hope you enjoy.